Hello and welcome back to episode 20 of Quantum Break. I'm Vic and you're watching yet another Let's Play channel. So let's dive right into some tasty lore, shall we? Mr. Serene, I know you're not in the headquarters right now and whatever mission you left on must be incredibly urgent, so you probably won't read this until you return. I know you'll be very angry with me, but I have to tell you what I've done. Using my maintenance access, I have deactivated the stutter proofing at the building. I know you will be furious. But I did it because Martin Hatch threatened my family. I'm not going to lie, I'm scared to tell you this, because I know you're on edge as it is, and clearly under tremendous pressure. But I have admired you and your vision for as long as I've worked for you, and I want to believe you can still fix things. So you have to know that it's Hatch. He made this happen, and he knew exactly what would... I'm sorry, there are now dead people at my feet, and I don't know how to fucking deal with this. They're strikers. They weren't here when I started writing this email, and now they are. There's a lot of blood. I literally had to wipe it off the screen just to be able to keep typing. It had to be a shifter that killed them. Their chronon harnesses are broken. I couldn't wear them if I wanted. But without one, I'm safe, right? No shifters outside of stutters, or that's what they told us in training. So I'm safe, and when a stutter hits, I don't even notice, unless a plane hits the building or something. God, I have fucked up so badly. People are dead because of me, not just these two, but throughout the building. The stutter proofing was supposed to keep the shifters out, and now everybody must be dying somewhere between the seconds. Everybody could be dead already, I don't know. I can't take this. And don't trust Hatch. I think that son of a bitch is after the CFR. I think he was never on our side. This is all some kind of a weird game for him. Shit, I don't know why he's doing this. I'm just an engineer and I don't know how to deal with this. It's too much. Sir, I know you must be furious at me. I deserve it. Believe me, I know. But please don't take it out on my family. I have to say, finding my workstation suddenly covered in blood and dead bodies would probably discourage me from continuing my email to the CEO. But I guess that's what priorities are all about. Ooh. Where are you, Chronon? You're behind me. Get over there, Jack. Yeah, no need to hurry. Just give it a nice little jog. That's cool. Nobody's trying to make a show here or nothing. Here we go. Thank you. I actually spent so long fighting those drone guys in the last episode that I considered just wrapping it up off camera, in which case I would have spent some time thinking about chronon upgrades also. But I've done neither of those things because the fight ended just a little bit early. So we got another one. Probably in that room over there. Yeah. Is this it? Is it shifter time? Is that it over there? Yeah. Is it Martin? I think that was Martin.
What the fuck? Was that Hatch? The train.
All personnel, stay clear of the lower levels. There's a possible hazard. Repeat, stay clear of the lower levels.
Oh, it's
There
a
appears to be a train crashed into the building. The situation is under control.
Hey, Charlie. I got another locked door here.
Not bad, Joyce. That's Serene's office. Let me just unlock that bad boy for you. Serene's got access to the CFR chamber from his office. I'll meet you there. Ah, there.
Yeah, good job with that port scan, Charlie.
Paul was already gone, but he left behind the one thing I needed.
I have left this message here for you to find. so that soon, when the time comes and I ask you to choose, you can do so with your eyes open and with some hint of understanding. I have no secrets, and the only things I choose to omit are the ones that you, in your current limited state, would not be able to grasp no matter how hard I tried to make you understand. I have walked down the same path you are now on. Once, from your perspective, a long time ago, although time no longer has such meaning to me, I too came in contact with a time machine. In my case, it was not a man-made device, but a natural one in a cave. It should come as no surprise, really, that such things exist, much like natural nuclear reactors do exist, such as the now defunct ones at Oklo, Africa. After all, the Meyer-Joyce field has its irregularities. I too became chronon active. I too developed chronon syndrome, and in time, I too lost control and became a shifter, became at once everything and nothing, was everywhere and nowhere, died countless deaths, and was still alive. My every probability, every possibility happening at once. I promised I would not lie, and thus I tell you, the noise and the pain and the rage were more than anyone could suffer and not go insane. I burned in this fire for a long time. There were brief moments of awareness in this endless nightmare, different versions of key moments in my life that I found myself reliving over again and again, trying to make things right, like a puzzle, on and on and on. I am convinced that the stutters and the end of time saved me. For those were the only places, the only times, where I could even briefly stop and rest and slowly find focus and control again, and ultimately master this state. Not emerge from it, not be cured, not go back to what I was before, for there is no such thing, but to learn to be in one place and everywhere at once. My perception is altered, like that of someone who has seen a perceptual illusion, and discovered that the picture is both a young girl and an old woman at the same time. Once you see them both, you can never not see them. We are such limited beings, we play with just one piece, on just one square mile, on an endless chessboard. Just one life, one timeline, in an infinite multiverse of possibilities. Am I an exception? The only one who's found his way to the other side? Or is this just a shifter's brief dream before a stutter collapses? There are other shifters. You, your best friend who's now your mortal enemy, Dr. Kim, others, some of whom you know. It doesn't matter who, because they are gone, and when they emerge, if they ever emerge, they will not be who they were, just as I am not who I was before. I've done my part in helping you all achieve this state. If time is an ocean with a frozen surface, then the stutters and the end of time are holes in that ice. Opportunities to come up for air. I have a plan. It's already in motion. But it would be futile to try and explain it to you, like trying to explain 3 dimensions to someone who can only see 1. But make no mistake, I do not look down on you. I strive for humility even as I shift this world from one state to another. I will make this possible. I stand in between. I don't see myself as a gate. I remain humble. I'm something smaller. A hatch. So there we go. Martin is a shifter. And apparently, he is of the opinion that Paul is also becoming a shifter, and so is Jack.
My office alarm went off. Is that you skulking around, Jack?
Fuck you. I'm done playing games. I'm here for what you stole.
Yes, of course.
The CFR. If you understood just how much depended on that, you'd leave it alone. But I know you don't care.
You're right. I don't. And it looks like you're not here to stop me.
Yes. Yes, everything will play out as it has to play out. I'll see you very soon, Jack.
Done dancing your tune, you crazy bastard.
Where was he going? I killed her, Clarice. I smashed her face in and it broke my heart, and I should have done it sooner, before she fucked us all. But of course it's too late. I should have done that before she activated the lifeboat, and before she killed me. Because that's what she did. She and Jack destroyed my treatments. She might as well have put a bullet in my heart. How long has she been working with him? How come you didn't catch her, Clarice? Aren't you supposed to be on top of things? I see these people in my building, safe only because I keep them safe. They work for me. I pay their salaries. I see how they look at me. I know what they're thinking, like saving the world was for the faint of heart. How much of her poison did she spread before I stopped her? Fucking Sophia. Forget it. It's done. I'll deal with it all. But I don't have time for this. I have to get to the chopper. Make these people fall in line, Clarice, and make sure the lifeboat is in order. I don't know if I'm coming back, but if I do, I expect everything to run right. Get it done. Well, that doesn't seem to square with the paranoia.
Just a couple of minutes between stutters.
The countermeasure was Paul's prize. Everything he built was based on Will's device. His plan depended on it. You better believe I look forward to taking it from him.
Only one of Serene's treatments survived the explosion. His time was running out.
So was everybody else's.
Had he taken it after all? This one is a chain. Paul, we now have finalized the plans for acquiring and transporting the time machine core from the university lab. Your instructions are quite clear. We won't actually move in until your younger self has entered the machine, and the men will try to take the Joyces alive, with the understanding that Jack Joyce in particular could be a threat, and neither can be allowed to escape under any circumstances. I'm still quite uncomfortable with all this, Paul. I understand your reasoning, and I know the stakes are high, but I don't want to see anybody hurt. It's antithetical to my role as a scientist, and I wish you'd reconsider. Surely there's a better way to resolve this. Moral implications aside, the loss of Dr. Joyce's expertise alone would be a great blow. If everything goes smoothly and quietly, we'll transport the core directly to the Monarch Tower via ground route. If there's commotion and it seems there's any risk of detection, we will instead airlift the core to our dry docks operation, and then move it discreetly from there to the headquarters. The construction of the new time machine frame at the top of Monarch Tower has been finished since last year. Once we've received the core, it will be installed into the time machine per your orders. I know you don't intend to use it, but even with the limitations the nature of time travel imposes on us, I have to say it seems like a great waste to not take advantage of such a resource, both from a strategic and a scientific point of view. Sophia, I understand why you would feel that way, but this isn't something I take lightly. It's my experience that time travel only complicates things, and while my own trip through time has given us great opportunities, it's also set me on this path. I want to control it, not use it. That said, I want to have the machine ready to use for emergencies. My foreknowledge of future events will end very soon, and it might prove to be useful to have the option of obtaining more detailed information from the future. Obviously, given that the furthest you could go back is the time machine's activation at the university, visiting the past seems fairly useless. Also, ensure that the time machine is heavily guarded at all times. Nobody is allowed to operate the machine besides myself, and I want the corridor to remain undeployed unless I give specific orders to the contrary. As for the Joyce brothers, I intend to give William the option of joining us if possible, but I know him. He's a very stubborn and unstable man, and I don't know if we could ever trust him. I don't need to remind you that he built, in that ridiculous little workshop with very limited resources, a device that broke the local physics at Ground Zero and caused my Chronon syndrome. I don't intend to give him a chance to show what he could do if he decides that we're a target. That, along with the visions I have seen, there are certain sentimental reasons that make me wish I could let William live, but I doubt that he makes it possible for us. As for Jack, I'm not too worried about him. It took me a long time to master my abilities, so Jack shouldn't be a major problem, unless he manages to use stutters to escape the area. Luckily, stutters should be very rare in these early stages of the fracture. Still, I've come too far to take any chances. I'd prefer to take him alive, but nothing can be allowed to put our plan at risk. I'm sorry to have to involve you in something like this. I know it's not what you signed up for, and as I said, I don't expect you to be personally involved with that part of the operation in any way. I'm not particularly happy about this part myself, and I wish I had better options. But our circumstances are as they are, and I've come too far to falter now. I hope you understand. Paul, yes, of course, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to add to your burden, and I know that these are hard decisions. You can count on us to proceed as planned. I know you're exceptionally busy now that the time is almost upon us, but I was hoping you'd have time for dinner. Sophia, please update me on our progress with the Time Machine Core relocation. Where are we with this? Paul, don't worry about it. We're on schedule. Your Time Machine Core from the university has been transported to the headquarters, and it's currently being installed into the new time machine frame we built for it. You'll have direct access to it from the CFR chamber as requested. And no, before you ask, you can't actually access the CFR chamber from the time machine. That elevator can only be activated from within the chamber, so no one working on the machine can get to the CFR. I thought you'd appreciate that layer of added security. I know how important it is to keep the CFR safe. Anyway, I know you don't actually intend to use the time machine, but should you ever need it, all you need to do is deploy the corridor. It's actually all hooked up now, but we're running some final diagnostics. The tech should be ready with it before the gala is over. So it's interesting that he wanted it to be so available, despite his misgivings about using it. It seems very strange to me.
Paul spent a long time running Monarch in secret. It probably didn't help with that whole disconnected from reality thing.
Reflections on the end. I wish my memories about the end of time were clearer, but it was anything but a clear time in my life. And the world was such a jumble, a frozen mess of different timelines crashing together. I was running for my life the whole time, trying to avoid the shifters. Not an ideal state of mind for gathering intel. And it didn't help that she kept chasing me, trying to kill me. Beth Wilder, one of my own people. It was her all along. Even then, trapped in the end of time, as little as I understood about what was going on, I could tell she wasn't like me, that she didn't have the powers I did. I knew she had some kind of technology that kept her going in that suspended hell. Of course, I had no idea it was a device I would eventually have my people develop. I suppose I should appreciate the irony that it was her chronon harness, my own chronon harness, that it gave me the idea for the lifeboat protocol. The idea that our technology could let humanity survive the end of time. I suppose I have to thank her for that. And she paid for her sins in the end. But she left her mark on me. I know the time to pay for mine is approaching quickly, but not just yet. Back then, when Wilder and I played our game of cat and mouse at the end of time, if I'd had an ounce of control over my towers that I do now, things would have turned out very differently between the two of us. She was strong and had the training, and I was young and weak and scared. Even so, my abilities gave me an edge. I was lucky she didn't have the full striker gear. She was the one with the upper hand. I didn't learn to properly control my abilities until much later. In those days, they were unpredictable and operated on instinct. Control didn't come easy. I can't help but be aware that this doesn't seem to be the case for Jack. His mastery is growing by leaps and bounds. Is it just because that's the way he's always been, fast on his feet, bold and adaptive? Or is the fracture affecting him too? I thought we could contain him. It's cost us dearly. It's not a mistake I will make again. Where's my chronon? Over the bed? Yes. Maybe. Awesome. Alright, I think... Where do we need to go? We need to go downstairs. More lore.
Paul saw what was coming. It broke him. He refused to believe that it could be changed. and he cast aside the only people who could have convinced him otherwise.
Alrighty. Just one. Paul, Martin, I know you've both been arguing that the Quantum Ripple Causality Research Subdivision has great potential, and we should keep it funded. I must once again implore you to reconsider. I'll be the first one to admit that the technology is impressive. The fact that Doctors Morphin and Rangers, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, can actually track the consequences rippling out from minor shifts within the Meyer-Joyce field is incredible, and with the level of informational detail they managed to obtain is amazing. But here's the thing. They've been at this for 2 years now, and they have not produced a single useful result. Yes, we can trace actual events from their small inception point to the actual consequences, very much in keeping with the basic chaos theory concept of the butterfly flapping its wings. But, well, so what? Every single thing that happens in this universe is the result of such a chain of events. Being able to see the chain offers no real insight into anything due to the very randomness of the process. Furthermore, it's utterly misleading. You could say that some tiny event or tiny decision in my life yesterday led me to writing this email, and that's technically true. But so did some tiny event or tiny decision in my life 15 years ago. It's all a chain. The event yesterday didn't take place in a vacuum. It didn't come out of nowhere. So what's the point? We have no control over it, we don't get to direct it, and we get no useful information out of it. Also, have you actually seen the reports they generate? From a technological point of view, the way they manage to automate their analysis of the fluctuation signatures within the Meyer-Joyce field is impressive. But again, it's all meaningless babble with no practical applications. Their personal remarks on the reports are even worse. With all due respect to Ron and Terry and their indisputable technical expertise, I don't know what they're doing, and I'm not sure they do either. It's like they're coming up with stuff at random. The above outlines my concerns as to the futility of the entire process, and I suspect that may not be enough to sway you. But I have one final point, which I think you should consider very, very carefully. The entire program is an unforgivable waste of Monarch resources. I don't mean money, although the entire Quantum Ripple Causality Research Subdivision is costing us millions and millions of dollars. But that doesn't really matter because I know we can afford that. However, there's a much more vital resource they're consuming. Every time they fire up their rig and delve into the Meyer-Joyce field, they eat up a huge amount of chronon particles. Those are a finite resource, and as you know, we are projecting that the Ground Zero's yield will rapidly diminish as the fracture takes hold, which will happen very soon. You may not understand what the real impact of this is, so let me put it to you in practical terms. Every time they detect and analyze a quantum ripple, it costs us a week of potential lifeboat runtime minimum. Given Monarch's primary purpose and the total lack of useful results, I believe that's a luxury we cannot afford. I recommend shutting them down immediately, or at the latest during our next reorg. We can reallocate their resources to something useful and put Ron and Terry's expertise into great use designing the lifeboat. I'm sure we wouldn't regret putting them to work on that, given their track record of working with Chronon Tech. Well argued, Dr. Amaral. We could go look at the calendars again. We should go look at the calendars again. Damn it. What's Jack gonna have to say about the calendars?
17 years, he lived through twice. All of it mapped out, from memory.
He knew the market trends before they occurred. He had the tools to make a fortune, and he did.
Can you believe time ended more than a year ago? I guess they did fix it after all. Alright, and there's more stuff ahead. MRI?
Paul was a powerful man, the leader of an empire. But behind the veil, he was a dying man. The signs were clear. Dr. Amaral was the one thing keeping Paul alive, but reading through their exchanges, there was something more than professional going on.
That's
At least
not
on...
my place to comment on.
Oh, that's Clarice. At least on Sophia's side. I don't know about Paul. I find myself at a loss. We knew that the fracture would arrive. It was clear very quickly that the process was occurring much faster than Paul's projections. His experiences had led us to believe. That was alarming in itself, but there's another concern. With the fracture, Paul's condition seems to be accelerating rapidly. I don't know what to do about either one of those issues. I haven't had a chance to examine Paul properly. And of course, he won't consent to any real tests at this point. He won't take the time, not with the situation being as critical as it is. He has to prepare for the gala. To take care of every little stupid thing Martin trots out for him. He won't think of himself at all, and I'm afraid that'll cost us dearly. So I don't know, I'm just speculating, but I believe this acceleration is a reaction to the stutters in time. In zero state, his wave function is further disrupted by the excessive chronon energies within his body. Before the university incident, before the fracture, the condition was progressive but controllable. The lack of stutters helped keep it in check. Now its progress is rampant, and I worry it may reach a critical point soon. We always knew that was a possibility, but all of our projections assumed we would have years, time enough to come up with a cure, or a way to stop its progress. Which means there's a very real chance that in the near future Paul's condition overtakes him. And if he does become a shifter, I don't know what to do about it. We haven't been able to help Dr. Kim. I don't know what we could do for Paul. I don't know what to do. The treatments are still working, but they take a toll on him, and their effect is greatly diminished. I'm concerned we may hit a point where he's forced to use them so often that the treatment becomes worse than the condition itself. And yet I don't see any other options. He will not rest. He insists on doing so much. I know he chafes under his dependence on the treatments. He sees it as a weakness. I'm afraid I may lose him. Well, I suppose in the end you did. But perhaps not in the way you expected. Why am I time visioning? I know I need to go this way. Oh good, bullets. You know what that means.
You're not supposed to be wearing that.
No, look, I can explain. Joss Wheeler. I'm tech support.
Joss Wheeler.
Just put the gun down. Joyce! Help! Charlie, get down.
And a one. Oh, come on, camera. I should have been able to take both of those guys before I ran out of charge.
Joyce, thank God. Shit, that could have been real bad.
You're Charlie.
Yeah. Let me get this door open.
Haven't quite figured out why he's wearing that thing yet. Sorry about that noise.
The lifeboat revolved around the countermeasure. He knew Will would try to take it back. That's why he was killed. He knew I'd try to do the same eventually.
Clearly, he was right.
Yes. People, because there seems to be a certain lack of clarity about when it's appropriate for someone to enter the CFR chamber and mess with the chronon field regulator, and because I had to fire Kevin Janeway because he did that exact thing. Let me remind you of the approved procedure. You do not touch the CFR, period. I may touch the CFR because I'm the lead technician in charge of it. Dr. Sophia Amaral may touch the CFR because she's our head of research and she knows what she's doing. Mr. Paul Serene may touch the CFR because he's Paul fucking Serene and it's his CFR. Nobody else touches the CFR. On occasion, some enormously lucky individuals who have been personally trained by me and are proven to be very, very dependable and incredibly good at their jobs, who don't have a track record of trying to enter the CFR chamber like paint-huffing imbeciles because they just wanted to take a closer look at it, and who have remembered to bribe the league technician and are in charge of the CFR, with Tom Waits tickets, may be given written instructions to perform specific procedures on the CFR. That will be a great honor and a sign of a significant degree of trust, and those people should be accorded all professional respect and an appropriate degree of brown-nosing and or passive-aggressive displays of envy by their peers. Or, to put it another way, you do not touch the CFR unless you want to join Kevin in the how to stop being an arrogant dumb shit and who jeopardized the only hope of a future for the entire human race because his mansplaining ass thought what the CFR really needed was a random dude who knew better self-improvement course down at the unemployment office, which I'm sure is where we all believe he was escorted by those armed men. There are no exceptions to this. The entire lifeboat protocol depends on the CFR being present, properly connected and functioning normally. You do not want to jeopardize this. This is bigger than any of us, and we are not here to fuck around. Lauren McStevenson. Well, Lauren, I think you have a shitty attitude. And that snark was very unprofessional, and also displayed more than one character flaw.
They'd stockpiled all the chronon particles from Ground Zero to keep the lifeboat running.
Enough to hopefully last until a proper solution was discovered.
Everyone, please be advised that we are now at a point where the lifeboat activation may occur. Accordingly, I have ensured that preparations are underway for activation. As a part of that, what chronon particle stores still remain at the Ground Zero harvesting operation are being moved to the headquarters and placed into the Master Chronon Particle Repository, ready to be placed under the CFR's control. Please be aware that what we have managed to accumulate until this point is very likely to be all the chronon particles we ever have access to. Due to the fracture's effects on the Meyer-Joyce field, the Ground Zero anomaly is showing definite signs of weakening. As a result, the chronon particle yield decreases dramatically and will soon drop to baseline. While we will obviously continue more traditional chronon particle harvesting operations in order to maximize our stockpile, we all need to recognize that sourcing them outside of the Ground Zero conditions is extremely inefficient. Or in plain terms, unless we find another source of chronon particles, and I don't believe we will, what we have now is all we will ever have. Please be aware that all use of chronon technology eats into our limited resources, and while we of course recognize that we need to have our strikers and other soldiers operate in stutters, each operation undertaken will eat away at our stockpile and in very real terms cost us days of lifeboat runtime. Accordingly, we have to plan all use of this technology closely and choose our battles carefully. That said, we should also realize the ongoing situation with Jack Joyce constitutes an emergency, and will most likely require unconventional chronon particle investments. Just the same, we should be aware of the cost. I expect to see projected chronon particle consumption rates for the foreseeable future and simulations of how long our stockpile will last. Adjusted for all of the scenarios we have discussed, see our last meeting minutes in our next Monday meeting. Sophia. Alrighty. Well, we have once again run out of time. So come back and see me again in episode 21 for, at long last, the retrieval of the CFR and whatever consequences ensue. Talk to you soon.